I've always loved animals. I mean, a lot of people have always loved animals, but they don't always found an animal rescue organization, right? But I've always loved animals, and I really want to help them. And I also love building something. I mentioned in a previous episode that the last 5 years I was working in corporations, I was working in startup companies, whereas the first 5 years I was working in big corporations. And from that experience, I realized that I love building things. I love building processes. I love building procedures. And so why not build a company, right? Build a nonprofit organization. And I did think about building for-profit companies before. Maybe someday I will build a for-profit company, but for now I'm building a nonprofit first because animal rescue is my calling. I rescued animals when I was little in Indonesia, but until maybe like a couple years ago, I didn't know how bad the issue is. There are over 200 million companion pets that are homeless in the world. In the US alone, there are 70 million of companion pets that are homeless. Companion pets are dogs and cats. And that's a lot. And it seems like in the US, there's a lot of, homeless shelters and rescue organizations, but that hasn't been enough because homeless shelters, rescue organizations can only take about 10% of the 70 million homeless companion pets that are in the US alone. They can only take 10%. So they can only take 7 to 8 million homeless pets or abandoned pets a year. That's 10%. That's not a lot, guys. And then out of that 10%, about half of them have to be euthanized every year because they can't get adopted. And it's one thing if a dog or a cat gets euthanized because they have aggressive behavioral issues that can't be fixed or because they have an illness that can't be cured. It's one thing if they get euthanized for that, but I'm talking about companion pets that are picked up by shelters. They get euthanized just because they can't get adopted. And so if they can't get adopted, then these shelters are full. And when they're full, they can't save other animals. And now why can't these pets be adopted even though they're perfectly healthy, they don't have any major behavioral issues? Then why can't they be adopted? Because not a lot of people realize how bad the situation is for these abandoned companion pets. Because a lot of people don't realize that, there's still a lot of people who buy their pets from breeders, from pet stores, instead of adopting pets. Only 15% of people in the US who have pets adopted the pets. So that means out of all the people in the US who have pets, 85% of them bought their pets, a lot of times from breeders. When there's, again, 70 million companion pets that are abandoned and on the street every year, and 3 to 4 million of them get euthanized every year because they can't be adopted because most people are buying their pets instead of adopting their pets. Some of these people may not even be aware of what it takes to have a pet because pets are living things. They're not furnitures. They have to be fed. They have to be taken care of. They have to, they have to pee. They have to poop. You have to take them out so that they can pee and poop and socialize with other dogs or socialize with other animals. Sometimes those pets do end up abandoned. Sometimes they end up abused. When you're in an animal rescue organization, there's a lot of times the breeds of the dogs and the cats are mixed. A lot of times there's not, at least in the US, a lot of times they're not like, a purebred breed. And also like big dogs get a bad reputation. And so a lot of big dogs are also abandoned. Big dogs like pit bulls, American Staffordshire, Dalmatians, German Shepherds, no one wants them because of some stereotype about big dogs, some negative stereotypes that big dogs are aggressive, when that's just a stereotype. Just like people, every dog has their own personality, and how aggressive a dog is a lot of times that depends on the owner. That depends on who trained them, how the owner treats them. If the owner treats them badly, then dogs tend to get aggressive because they're in defensive mode. Because dogs and cats, they're animals, and so the way they think is very simple. They want to eat, they want to play. If they get offended, they want to defend themselves, right? So how aggressive a dog or a cat gets, a lot of times that depends on the owner. Now, it's a different case when, like, say a dog becomes aggressive because it contracts rabies, and in that case those dogs are usually euthanized, and even the euthanization needs to be humane. So anyway, I can talk about this all day, but this is why I chose animal rescue as the mission that I wanted to found an organization for, because I feel like there's not enough animal rescue organizations, even in the US. I think a lot of times people forget that animals are also living beings, and they have, they have a right to live safely. They have a right to be loved. And so now that we have the whys out of the way, starting next episode, I'm going to talk about the steps that I had to take to build a nonprofit organization. So stay tuned for upcoming episodes.